In this video, I want to talk to you about text, what a text is, what a document is, and by extension then, what writing is. So I'm going to uh, analyze these things in a way that you need to kind of view them as targets. If you look at a bullseye, that's maybe the strictest definition. And it might be the definition that you might be expecting. But if we extend it, broaden it, extend it, broaden it, you have rings around that bullseye, which the word may be used in an expanded way because essentially it's still doing the same thing as writing. We'll get to that soon. I know that might have been just a little um, hard to follow because I don't have examples yet. But, well, let's get started. So we've been talking about signage. And we've said, hey, look, there are three signs that are really very much at play with how you do things. The icon, the symbol, and the index. And then with those signs, we can talk about messages that are created, and that led us to discuss the communication triad. There's author, arena for the message, and audience. Now, obviously, a message is involved. The arena isn't the message. Traditionally, the communication triad is author, message, audience, but I like to look at it in terms of arena because that is allowing me to discuss the message and also the physical space the message takes place. And it helps me remember AAA, author, arena, audience. Okay, so within that arena, you have live messages, recorded messages. Live being synchronous and often high clarity, and then the recorded messages being asynchronous, allowing for displacement, and often needing you to use methods and techniques of hermeneutics, the art of interpretation. Now there is an overlap of the live and the recorded because sometimes you can have a live session that is being recorded at the very same time. That's completely understandable. It's just two things happening at once, and then the things get separated. The recording stays, the live event finishes, dies, is done with as soon as it's done. So sometimes these things can happen at once, but that doesn't mean you have some sort of new weird live/recorded hybrid message. No, it's just two things happening at once. We're pretty complicated as to how we do communication. We were made for this. That's why you speak. You've been speaking since you were 2, 3, or 4, and rocks don't. So let's get on now to talk about this message. Let's focus on the message for a little bit. Sometimes messages can be given just by body language and situational communication, okay? You know, if you're having a huge argument with someone and you turn your back, right, on that person. That's sort of a physical symbol, if you will. It's not recorded. It's not anything that you have to train or teach somebody, but a message is sent there, and people kind of understand what you mean, right? Now, this is, as a sidebar, this is a very interesting area of study because if you think of universal body movements, like clapping, or as when you're asking for help and you stretch out your hand, you almost always have your hand open. When you're worshiping, if you worship and you believe in God and you're praying to God, sometimes your hands almost always are open as opposed to closed. When something good happens to the human race, the vast majority of people smile and laugh. They never have to be trained. So there's stuff that is happening that also delivers messages that aren't necessarily covered in the sign, symbol, icon trilogy, if you will. When we're talking about messages here, we're talking about signs. As soon as signs come into play, then what we have is a text. All right, text are messages that use symbols, icons, or indices. All right, and right here, a text is being produced because I'm developing a message for the audience, and I'm using, in this case, symbols, the physical words. And you have the code and all of that. So this is a text, okay? Books are obviously texts, but so is speech. When your mom or your dad comes in, or your brother or your sister or your friend comes into you and tells you it's time to go or whatever, or hi, how are you? That is a text because You have an author, an audience, and an arena that is happening to deliver a message through signs. The signs are going to be icon, symbol, or index, but that's what's happening in that arena. That's a text, okay? Now, if the text does not get recorded in some way, if it's live, it's still a text, but it kind of disappears on you, okay? When it's done, and it lives in your memory, but good luck trying to prove it actually happened. That's why when you have to have that sort of proof, people are always going to say, is it writing? Do you have video evidence? Because the relative to non-recorded text can be easily challenged by mental stability, a blackout, fugue states, or someone saying, no, I actually said that, you didn't say that, and how do you prove anything, right? So when it's one word against another word, one person's word against another person's word, you've got legal issues in terms of, no, you're not, that's not proof, okay? Okay, there are exceptions or semi-exceptions. We don't need to go into any of that because we're just trying to get a quick view on this. When the message is a text, I'm saying that it's not recorded. It's just there. It's as a message. Okay. When it does get recorded so that it can be displaced, now we're talking about documents. Now, I'm asking you to be very general with these terms. You might think of a text in terms of a book or a textbook. No. It's so much broader than that. And the world out there recognizes that. That's why the thing you get on your phone is called a text. That was a very weird and technical term at the beginning. Somehow it took on like wildfire because it was easy to say and it was short. But it was not necessarily a word with cachet, if you will. It didn't sound cool. But now it does. Now it's natural. Now you just accepted it. Right? So that was somebody using the text in the general essential way in terms of a message that was recorded, not a book. Okay? Books are types of texts. In fact, anything that is a book or anything that's a text on the phone, I got in there, anything that's written down, sorry for the light, but you can maybe see some handwriting going on. These become documents. Texts that are recorded, we need to refer to them as documents. And you know, when someone is maybe writing a research paper or they're trying to like make proof happen, if you will, and they say, well, can you document that? You know, if you can answer yes to that, then you're dealing with a document. If the thing can be documented, passive voice, past tense, right? Then it is a document by definition. So I want to take it a step further because that's just talking about potentiality, right? If it can potentially be documented. We're going to say that documents are things that have been documented, okay? Which means that they are already in a fixed format. This piece of paper with words on it, I'm sorry for the light, it's hard to see it. There you go. You see the words? That's a fixed format. That's graphite on wood fiber, and that doesn't change. That's going to be with those strokes and those lines in that way for a whole week if I let it happen, for a whole year if I preserve it right. Okay, the signage on here, that's a document right here because this is in a fixed format. Okay, it's not going to change on me a week from now. It's going to be exactly the same because it's fixed. Okay, so a document is a text that has been recorded by signs. This has been recorded in the sense that it's fixed. It's fixed state, fixed material state, if you will, because it's on tin. You know, this is on wood fiber. This recording has been fixed because it's in a fixed state. And you're like, well, how's it in a fixed state? Well, it is. If you get down into the electrons and the charge, all those zeros and ones down there in the binary code unit, the deep code, that's in a fixed order. And you cannot change that. That's why when you stop and replay, you're going to see exactly the same thing you saw at the beginning of the video the first time. All right, fixed format. Even though this is moving, it's still fixed format. All right, so documents are always going to be fixed format. They're always going to be replayable. So you can hit play again and again. Now, how do you hit play with this again and again? There's no play button. Well, tomorrow I can replay the experience of seeing it by simply looking at it again. I looked at it once. Okay, now I'm going to replay it. I look at it again. Okay, now I'm going to replay it because I'm accessing the document over and over again, the very same doc. I can access it multiple times. Okay, so it's fixed format. It's replayable, just in the sense that you can re-access it over and over and over again. Okay, it is open to a mass audience. Okay, so in other words, it exists outside of somebody's mind, and it's never there. It's in an arena that anybody can enter that arena and see it. Now, sometimes the arena is artificially closed, like you can't actually go and hold the original United States Constitution in your hand, one of the original copies. You can't do that, right? Because it's artificially blocked off. But you can at least go into the room and see one of the original copies. I say original because this thing was apparently written out at the same time a couple times or whatever. But it's accessible to a mass audience. So a document, okay, it's fixed format, replayable, accessible to a mass audience. And the fourth thing is it's copyable. You can make a copy of it. It's duplicable. How do you make a copy of this thing? Well, there's some factory that did, right? Because they mass-produced this. So, there's probably other tins that are exactly like this, more or less. There she is. How you doing, little girl, huh? You just became a document. What do you think about that? Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, anyway, this is copyable. But it's also copyable because I can take hundreds of pictures of it. I can just take a picture of it. And I have an icon that's standing for the thing, but that icon, for all essential purposes, gives me whatever this gives me. Like if I look at this front on, right? Sorry, it's not on the camera, but if I look at this front on and then I look at a picture of it front on, I'm not getting any new information. So, just sometimes taking a copy of something gives you, well, that's the ability. Like what I mean is like taking a photo of it or recording it. So this is one reason why many politicians will insist on like reading when someone's making a speech, a mayor, a policeman, and they might want to own the speech. In other words, they might not want anybody to quote it out of context or whatnot. So they might actually like just read from a piece of paper, because that piece of paper has turned the message that we're going to give, which is just going to kind of be a free-floating text, into a document. And because they have it, they made it, they own the document. They automatically have copyright privileges of that document. It can be copied, and they're the master of that. So then they can challenge a newspaper or an organization that maybe wants to copy it and use it in their newspapers in a different way or in a wrong way or whatever. So there are plenty of reasons we do things like that. In terms of, hey, it might just be better just to speak, live and impromptu, off the cuff, if you will. But in tense, potentially legally fraught situations, someone might want to own the document. And of course, the person giving that speech can simply be recording it. That's a copy of it, and they're making it, so they own the copyright. Copyright is not really that hard of a concept to understand, although it's legally robust. There's a lot there, but essentially it's just the right to copy. And the right to copy initially always belongs to the creator of the text. Now that creator can sell it, can trade it, can give it away, can be very negligent about it, and the thing actually moves into a public domain situation. It becomes free. There's all sorts of stuff that the United States legal system has done with copyrights. But initially, you always have the copyright of anything you do, any drawing you do, any doodle, your notes, anything you write, you have the copyright of. Now, when you bring it into the public sphere, the copyright has to get shored up legally. So then you might want to register it at the Library of Congress. You might want to have it go through a press that can protect it while still giving you the right to own it. All sorts of things we do, but let's not move into copyright discussion here. Let's just say, quick review of the terms here. A message is, if it's using signage, symbols, icons, or index, it's going to be viewed as a text. If it's recorded, it's going to be a document. And the document needs to be in a fixed format. It needs to be replayable. It needs to be open to a mass audience, and it needs to be copyable. And with those terminologies, you can begin to realize that a lot of things are documents. A song that you hear on the radio is a document. Now, if you're sitting in someone's bedroom, a friend's bedroom, and they make up a song just by themselves right there on the spot, that's not a document yet. That's a text. If you record it for them, you just made a document, right? Because it's in a fixed format. It's mass audience accessible. By mass, I just mean more than one. It can be made public. It's replayable and it can be copied. Movies are texts, okay? Billboard signs are texts. There's just so many things now that are texts, that are documents, text and documents. And so now when we talk about writing, if by that we mean by making texts, then writing all of a sudden encompasses a lot of things. It talks music making, video making, filmmaking, art, cartoons, books, essays, podcasts, websites. I mean, it's all of that is writing. And that's why I asked you to think in terms of a target, because very specifically, a lot of people carry with them a very specific definition of writing, right? Putting words on a page. But now that we understand how the communication triad works, how signage works, and hopefully we understand this, and how text and documents happen, then you see that writing, if we're going to use that in terms of how to produce a text and a document, can be all sorts of things. And so sometimes I'll say, hey, in Ravenburn or in the faculty school system, for writing, we'll have students make a documentary, or we'll have students write some music, or we'll have students, and sometimes the outsider who's much more traditionally minded would be like, well, how's that writing? And I'll be like, well, let me give you a video to watch. No, not really, but there is a logic to this, okay? And writing can be very, very good for you. Your mind is geared towards that. We think in terms of story. We remember events in terms of story. We like to view our lives as a story that is not just randomly a series of events. It has a beginning, middle, end. It has a purpose. It has a meaning. It has a storyline. Okay, so this is very important to you. And being a writer is much more than just being someone who can write an essay or a book. Okay, so keep this in mind as we ask you now in your portfolio work or the Associate of Arts work to do writing assignment, a speech assignment, a viewing assignment. Right? Do you understand now? It's all about signage. It's all about you being a better semiotician, a better communicator, a better person who deals with signs.